Okay, looks like we are recording, and I am super excited to have on the program Vegan Zombie, Chris Cooney. And I know a lot of you guys are already going to know Vegan Zombie. He's one of the longest running YouTube channels that is vegan themed on YouTube. So this is super exciting to have you on the program, just to meet you. And also, obviously, the main point of bringing you on is that you have spent years now working on this vegan zombie film, which is going to be so cool to see. I am so excited. I haven't seen it yet, but I've watched the trailer. Anyway, welcome to the program, Chris.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so thank you for pouring your passion into a film. And like one of the things that I've been really focused on lately is interviewing people who are like kind of following their passions, like the way that you're doing, and being creative about getting out this positive message to people. So that just I really want to talk a lot about just how you like poured your heart and soul into this, but just like real quick before, because I want to show people the trailer so that they can see what we're talking about here. But real quick, like where did the idea, the inspiration for this come from?
Well, we got to go back to early 2009. I was working my full-time job, and I really just realized that I hated it. I was thinking to myself, I can't do this for the rest of my career and retire and that be it. I wanted to be passionate about something. I wanted, like I went to school, I got a degree, I thought I had this job that I loved, and then it turned out I didn't. And I remember driving on the back roads of upstate New York, thinking all of this. And so I went immediately to like, okay, well then let's start brainstorming. What do I love? And I started thinking immediately, I love movie making. I love making movies. I've been around some form of like, home movies since I was born. My dad had a Super 8mm camera, and he took family movies, and I was very intrigued by that. And the next thing is I love specifically horror movies. I know not everyone loves horror, but there are a lot of people that do, and I was one of them. I always loved horror, and I had at that point I had been vegan for the majority of my life. So how could I take those three elements, horror movies and veganism, and turn that into something that I could be passionate about doing something? And so I started brainstorming. I love vampires, so like vegan vampires, nah. Werewolves, no, that might be too hard. And then I'm like, oh my God, zombies. Like I could make a zombie premise where people are becoming infected through meat and dairy products they're eating. I had an idea right away. And a few years before, I wrote while I was at work, actually, I wrote like kind of like a 4-page little zombie thing that I wanted to make a movie for. It only was like a small little concept, but I took those scenes and I implemented it into my new idea. And I went home, I took a pad of paper and a pencil, and I started writing a script. Now, I had never written a script before, so I didn't do it the proper way, which, now you can use Final Draft and all that. I just started writing like what I thought would be, a good dialogue for a script, because I love movies. So my knowledge of movies, kind of poured into this. And then after I had the 40-page, concept of a script, I started thinking, well, how can I start going on and making movies? Because up until that point, I would just kind of make videos with my friends and then edit it with 2 VCRs ever since I was a teenager. And I'm like, well, that's not how the pros do it. I got to learn how the pros do it. And by this point in 2009, now we had like, our own editing home suites like Adobe I had, and Premiere and After Effects. I started learning all that stuff. I'm like, I got to start learning this and just start practicing. And the best way to do that is just to go out and do it, make mistakes and learn to make videos. And at that point, there was a platform that was relatively new. My dad actually taught me or told me one day in 2006 about YouTube. So I was like, all right, well, I'll start uploading my videos there. So I decided I wanted to make some zombie skits. I wanted to do special effects. I wanted some visual effects. I wanted some zombie movie like things that I wanted to try to edit to look as professional as I could. But then I started thinking, well, I've never seen anything on YouTube quite like any vegan things on YouTube at this point. And so why don't I just do a cooking show? I'll do a vegan cooking show set in the zombie apocalypse. I had no expectations that anybody would watch the channel or anything like that. I just wanted to put them out there. Different things that me and my buddies would make, like, for vegan Thanksgiving, since the late 90s, we would do this stuff, and we would just take our recipes and just start putting them up on YouTube. And, to my surprise, we started getting a pretty big following, and, that turned into people wanting a cookbook. And then we did a Kickstarter, and then that was successful for a cookbook, which gave us the ability to, travel. We traveled Germany for that cookbook, and it became an award-winning cookbook of 2014.
Nice.
And then that was a successful Kickstarter, which eventually, with the platform that I had on YouTube of, more and more and more subscribers over the years, I was able to do a Kickstarter for the movie after I felt like I was ready to shoot a full feature movie. And that Kickstarter was successful back in, I think, August of 2018. So here we are in 2025. I just finished the post-production, and now we have a trailer for the movie, and we're trying to get it out there now. So
Wow. So I didn't know this. So you're saying that basically the idea for the movie actually predated the YouTube channel?
the idea for the movie was the YouTube channel. Yes. And
Oh,
all this
wow.
time, I had that idea that I didn't quite want to give away any of the, the spoilers for the movie. So a lot of people would come to my channel, and they would enjoy it, because I tried to make it as fun and entertaining and educational as possible to draw people in that way. But there was a lot of people that also came to the channel, and they kind of like, made fun of it. Oh, vegan, this is stupid, like just stuff like that. And it's like,
Mm,
well, just wait until the movie comes out and it'll explain everything. And I don't think it'll be as stupid as you think it is. But I had to
yeah.
wait 16 years now, so
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, which just like already that's just an incredible like stick-to-itiveness and
Yeah.
tenaciousness to get it done, which is super impressive. And yeah, and I'll tell you, like right before, like I'm gonna show them the trailer right about now, but I just want to say, like, I've watched several interviews you've done about this, several talks, and I gotta say, like your passion, your enthusiasm, your excitement about it is really infectious. Like you've got me excited because I can see just how excited you are about this. And I think that's really just I'll tell you this, like there's this like theater. Unfortunately, it got hurt in the hurricane wiped it out. The hurricane that blew through North Carolina wiped it out. But what I really loved about this indie theater was just that it was so apparent in this theater how much they loved movies. And that made you want to be there. Like everything was like a shrine to these classic films, that classic film. So it's like I get the same thing from you. And yeah, it makes me really want to see this. So let's go ahead and show people this trailer. And okay, here I can share the screen. Did that pop up there?
I see it.
Okay, cool. All right. Let's just say it's 2.5 minutes. So let's just take a moment to watch this.
Good morning. It's a beautiful day here in Amherst. We do have some breaking news to report. There are several reports of what appears to be a stomach bug going around. Now, experts are not quite sure of the cause, but an investigation is underway. You are being advised to use discretion and stay home if you aren't feeling well.
I'll be back.
Cell mutations. If we consider a virus to be similar to a eukaryotic cell, where would the actual mutation originate? Is there something important outside, Harley?
Never mind. I guess it's nothing. Dude, it's like a ghost town in there. Everyone's going home sick or something.
Now we have eyes on the ground at Amherst General, reporting live. Let's see what's unfolding. Pat, what can you tell us?
Okay, how do you think they actually get the milk out of a note?
Maybe we can get together sometime and cook up some vegan cheeseburgers or something.
Yo, bro, I left my wallet in your truck.
What the?
Hey, we need backup!
People are complaining of dizziness and stomach pains. People are, oh my God, what are you doing? Get down!
Tell him!
Wait. That's gotta be it, right? Okay, wait, what do you mean?
So, don't eat animals, fools.
Hopefully those things don't want to eat us too.
That was a quick 2.5 minutes.
That went by really fast.
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple things just right off the bat that people will notice is cameos from some really prominent people like Dr. Greger, Jane Velez Mitchell, who I know you did an interview with yesterday, but also just how good it looks. It looks so good, and
Thank
I
you.
know that just from the interviews that you've given, how you made this on like a shoestring budget. Basically, you did the Kickstarter campaign, and then you made this very, very nicely Hollywood looking film, where a lot of times they're using millions of dollars to make these films, and you just did it like kind of through grit, just pulling things together. So yeah, just well done.
Thank you.
And that's all I've seen of the film so far is just the trailer. So I'm excited. So so I know you're not giving away what the title means, A44. So we'll have to wait for that.
Yeah.
What can you tell me about these cameos? Because that's pretty interesting.
Okay, so well, the first voice you hear in there is some vegans might recognize Jane Velez Mitchell, who is from Unchained TV, Jane Unchained, and she plays the reporter. She actually was one of the Kickstarter supporters, so she donated to the Kickstarter, and I went out there when we were doing after the Kickstarter was kind of finished, when we were pushing it. And I did an interview with her at her place out there in LA. And she was more than happy to do a cameo in there. And like she said in the interview yesterday, she like year after year went by, and we planned to do this like the year after the Kickstarter, and that just didn't happen. And then then the pandemic happened, and then year after year it was getting like people were like, hey, what's going on? Like, like, did you scam our money? It's like, no, it takes a long time to make a movie, to do it the right way. And, I was with one team of different directors and producers, and then that fell apart. And then I met with another team, and then that fell apart. And then I had one more team, and then that fell apart. And then finally I met the team that I filmed it with. And I figured at that point, if I don't get this going now, it might never happen. So I found some local filmmakers, and we ended up making things work, and we ended up shooting it in 2022, the summer and fall of 2022. But not to get off track. So Jane was in there. She plays, you hear her voice, but she's also, you see her in the actual movie. There's also
very appropriate to have her play a reporter, since that's what she does, and she has that reporter voice, and very natural for that, obviously.
And she used to have her own show back in the 90s, 2000s, Headline News. She did a lot of things for like CNN, and I think Nancy Grace, stuff like that. So she's a professional newscaster, of course. So she did really, really good. It just ups the credibility of the film. And then there's also we got Hench Herbivore. For those of you that know Hench Herbivore, He is a vegan fitness influencer. I think he's a dietitian as well. So he's got a sneak peek in there, small little part. We have Dr. Greger. So everybody in the vegan community should know Dr. Greger, and he's got a distinct sound. His voice is very familiar to people. So I thought he would be great for this. So yeah,
And
I
he was
reached
the
out to him.
teacher. He was the teacher where I was like, what are you looking
Yes,
at out
he's the
there?
professor, the college professor. And I think he did an awesome job. He came up here during the summer and we filmed that. And that was actually the high school that I graduated from many years ago. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
That is cool.
And then we have like Noah Craig, who's also a vegan YouTuber. He's local here in Syracuse. He just has a small little part. He doesn't have any lines or anything, but he helps support it. He's a good friend of mine, so he's in it as well. And as far as that goes, those are probably our main features for the vegan community.
Gotcha. Well, and then there's a main one who was you. So you star in the film, you created the movie, and directed it. And I know from the interview yesterday with Jane that you did a lot of the editing as well, like if not all of the editing. I think you said someone else did the sound editing.
Someone else did the sound design. I did all of the editing. I can't forget that the star, there is one more vegan that was in that movie, and it's a star of the movie, and that was Indy. That was my German Shepherd. That was,
beautiful.
I feel like he is the star of the movie.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So yeah, so a lot of this stuff has been.
He's not in there. No, the picture needed to be slid over a little bit more, and you would see him right next to me on the train tracks. But yeah, I was just trying to.
I like that background, by the way. I've got to spruce up mine. I got to get.
I had a different one yesterday, so I put this one in here today. But that's actually that was taken from where the movie was filmed.
Nice, nice, nice. So, you actually told me, before the interview, but I don't want to spoil it if that's not headline news yet. But when can people expect to start seeing this film roll out?
That's what we're working on right now. I don't really know the answer to that just yet. We've submitted it to several film festivals that we're waiting to hear back from. I'm trying to get some distribution, so that will all have like a say in when it comes out. I wanted to, release it last year, and things just didn't work out quite right. So now we're into 2025, but I don't really know the answer to that yet. But we do want to do a premiere. I want to do a premiere here in Syracuse, which would be, like I said, sometime in March. And then Jane wants to get a theater out there in LA and do an LA premiere. And she was talking somewhere around April. We don't have any dates locked in yet for that. But that's what the plan is right now.
Well, one of the things that is really impressive to me, beyond you've done all this stuff, I'm piggybacking on Jane's interview quite a bit, but in that interview, you had mentioned also that, you're sort of new to this aspect. You've never done this part of the rollout, the distribution. So everything you've done, basically, I guess, you did a lot of like the video stuff on the YouTube that was helping you kind of along the way, but it's really been a do it yourself, like kind of learn on the fly mentality, which that goes really well with the theme of even my show, because that was kind of what I wanted to do, was just try something. So I really appreciate that mentality of just go out there, try something out. Even if you fail, it's not even really a fail. You've learned, right? And I have found throughout my life that when I try something, I'll usually make it work to some degree, because you're in the mall. You've got to figure it out. You've got to make it happen. So yeah, I hope that's a good lesson for people, like whether they're talking about, veganism, try it, whether they're talking about activism, go out and try it, put yourself out there and try new things. I think that's just a great lesson for us in life in general. So well done. Well done. I appreciate that.
Yeah. When I started the channel, like I didn't know how it would go. And I started trying like different things that I think when I go back, I like them. They're like, I've tried to make things as cinematic and movie like as possible near at the beginning of the channel. And there was about 3 or 4 really big productions that I did, like all day shoots for the Vegan Zombie channel. And I remember doing it, and we put out like an ad on like Craigslist or Facebook that we were looking for extras to come in for the day. And we did it at like a local movie theater. And we did it at a vegan restaurant, Strong Hearts. And then we did it at a mall that is now closed down now. My buddy owned a comic book store there, and he's also a longtime vegan like myself. And he just was able to get us in there and tell security we're going to be like running around with toy guns and different things with zombies after hours in the food court. So the first time I did one of these, I think it was the French toast video. If you go back and watch the vegan zombie French toast video, it's one of our like most well done cinematic, experiences that we did. And I remember we had like 2 makeup artists, like 30 people were there, everything.
Wow.
And as I'm going from like one area to the next area, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm in charge of all of this. I've never done this before. I don't even know what I'm doing. Just pretend you do. Just pretend, so I had that mentality like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're going to try it like this. Like, as long as you act confident, like you know what you're doing and you kind of have an idea, and you might not know what you're doing, but like just have, as long as other people think you do, that's how it's. And you know what? It turned out really good, and it's one of my favorite videos we did. And it was like that replicated for the other ones we did. And then after that, it kind of became easier. So when I took on the project of doing this movie, sure, I was like, I've never done this before, but I have directed like a long, whole day process, several times. So maybe we just do that and we multiply it by a lot, So I had to learn all these things that I didn't know. I had to learn pre-production, which I didn't know before. I learned so much, and this whole process was a huge learning experience for me. And I can honestly say that I feel a lot more confident going in directing, shooting, and producing another movie, and doing things that would save a lot of heartache and like a lot of things we did wrong, and be able to fix that and have that experience to know like, hey guys, we need to take some shots like this. We need to make sure the lighting is better here. We need to look more at continuity, that kind of thing. And like you said, I've done everything in the movie making process until where I am right now. I don't know the distribution. I've heard horror stories like, I don't want some distributor to take advantage of us and, like basically take everything. And, like I've got I mean, yeah, sure, the movie's out there. That's great. But like, that's kind of what happened to us with our cookbook. So I don't want to let that happen again.
Yeah. And I mean, this film is unique because, you're trying to get a positive message across, which is not necessarily like the goal of every film. Like you want to entertain people, you want it to stand alone as a good horror movie, but you also have this secondary goal, which is, well, maybe it's the first, it's maybe the primary goal, which is to spread a positive vegan message and hopefully get people thinking about this stuff, maybe make changes in their life. And obviously, if you go to a distributor or somebody, they may not share that goal. So I'm sure that's a calculation that you're thinking about too. Just like, who do I involve? Go ahead.
Yeah, this movie has been like I said this yesterday, but I had because I had a lot of challenges with this movie, and then we looked online for like some solutions, and we got this nice guy that wrote back to us, and he is very experienced in movies. And he was on this like techie site that would answer like all kinds of movie questions. And like basically out of the kindness of his heart, he started helping us, giving us good advice on all of this, and I had so many problems. And when it was ready to be fit when I basically finished the edit and got the sound design, and this is before all the color grade and everything. So it's a lot better now than it was when I let him see it. But I let him and his colorist, the guy that colors grades the movie, watch. We did kind of like what we're doing right now. We shared a link and we all watched the movie because he is actually from the United Kingdom and he's never met me in person. he's not even a vegan, and he really didn't even know what the movie was about. So he went into this watching this with his friend, totally unbiased, as in thinking, with all the problems I had, that it was going to be like there's going to be a lot of problems, but he kept assuring me like, hey, the most important thing is you make your first feature movie, even if it's really bad. And as soon as it was done, he's like, Chris, I'm so impressed. Even though the guy wasn't vegan, he goes, this movie, it was so special. It's from the heart, and you can tell that this movie was from the heart. And he said, you need to enter this in some serious film festivals. And like, that made me feel better, that like two people that weren't even vegan, that didn't even know what this was about, were basically blown away by this movie. And they could tell, unlike a lot of Hollywood movies, that this one right here was from the heart. He knew it was a low budget, and that it is. I mean, I put everything I had into this. And as you were saying, it does have a vegan message to it. And as a vegan of decades long, I feel like I did what I think was the right kind of balance to put that vegan message in there, that's not going to make people that aren't vegan get up and leave the theater or their streaming service or whatever, that they're going to actually watch this. And by the time it hits them, it'll be too late. And if they say like, no, whatever, like they're pretty much lying to themselves, because the way I did it. And I can't really expand on that too much, because I don't want to give anything away, but I tried my best to do it like that. Now, we do have a vegan message in this. So that's like an indirect way of helping the animals. But like I said, on the other stream, we also have plans for, directly helping animals, because I wanted to do some like fundraising events where we go to a local, town, we play it at we do an event where we sell out a theater, and we split a certain portion of those proceeds with a different local animal sanctuary. We do a fundraiser for them, so that's directly affecting that. And when I did my Kickstarter, part of the deal was, if we raised enough money to make this movie with a vegan message to it, we would also, considering the movie would actually make money, which, we want that to happen. We want the movie to make money. We don't want this to be like a nonprofit. We want it to make movie, because we wanted a certain amount of those proceeds for the lifetime of the movie to be able to go to, a handful of different sanctuaries. So it's all been like a kind of like an altruistic thing that we've been working on here, and we want it to succeed for that reason. And as far as I know, as far as I've researched, it's the first of its kind, being a feature movie that's not a documentary, and it's a feature pro-vegan throughout the movie, horror movie. And we really mean that when we say that. Everything about this, like, we had vegan contributors to the Kickstarter. I wrote it. I'm a vegan. I put the message in there. Production, like everything on set was vegan. Not everybody was vegan, but I let everybody know when I hired them that, just so you know, I hope you're okay with this, but this is a vegan production. So all food, all catering will be vegan. You're welcome to eat whatever you want offset on your own time, but we'll have food there for everybody at all times. Everybody was more than happy with that. And yeah, the gore, the makeup, everything we made sure was vegan friendly. So yeah, I'm proud to have made a feature pro-vegan movie that was made as vegan friendly as we could possibly get it.
Yeah. I mean, and money is important, for the film as well. So like, I mean, we know like sanctuaries, they always need money. Like, so it's great that you're helping out sanctuaries. There's the feed, there's the hay, there's all kinds of things that sanctuaries need all the time. This, I know, because you spent plenty of time at sanctuaries, that they're always working. Like, they're some of the hardest working people. In fact, like, I know you busted your ass to make this film. So I know that there's some like parallels of like, you got to put in the, probably way more than the 9 to 5 hours to get this film done. And that's like how it is on a sanctuary. but you know, for a film, of course, like these Hollywood films, like I know that they'll have to announce like a budget, right, that they've used on the film, but typically I've heard that those budgets are usually like double that when you add in the cost of like having to advertise and distribute and all these types of things. So there's all these things that you need to be able to get the word out. And it would be such a shame if the film, you put all this effort into the film and then nobody sees it, of course, right? So now you've got this like probably one of the most important aspects of the whole filmmaking process you're in right now. And I share your goal. I heard you say this on another interview or one of your lives, that your hope is that this will reach like horror movie film, like horror fans, not just the vegan community. Even though this is a vegan channel, and I'm loving that I'm able to, like, you know, my few subscribers can see this and get excited about the film, but hopefully it will reach beyond just the vegan community and get the word out there.
Yeah, my intentions were, you know, I figured that most vegans would probably want to support this because of the message. Even if they don't like horror movies, like they would still want this to do well and support it. So my goal wasn't really to make a movie for the vegans. It was mainly for the horror fans. And I think I delivered. I feel like it's a standalone, decent horror movie for any horror fan. Now, there's also that message in there. I'm not saying that everybody's going to go vegan, but I'm hoping that there's a percentage of people that watch this that can at least say, I'm going to think more, you know, more about my choices and what I'm eating and more compassionately because of this movie. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, and it's interesting that, you know, you started all this stuff way back in the day. So like when you're talking about like doing like cooking episodes and things like that, that sounds like, you know, now there's a lot of those, but when you started, you may have been like one of the first, if not the first to start doing that, right?
Yeah, we were one of the first that I think we're like, as far as vegan like cooking channel goes, stuff like that. I think that we're probably the oldest one that's still running now. They're definitely, I didn't see it. You know, when I did it, it was completely in my imagination. Like I came up with the idea because I didn't see a single vegan anything on YouTube at the time. And the way I went with the cooking channel was because I remember there was like a cooking episode on the news all the time. Like my parents would watch the news, and if I was over there, there'd be a news segment, and then they'd have like a little segment of a cooking show. And I'd be like, it's usually pretty boring. Maybe I'll try to veganize whatever they're making. And the only reason I'm not turning the channel is because the remote's over there, you know, like, so basically I wanted to, you know, like I wanted to make a more entertaining cooking show. Like for instance, the camera was like one angle and it just showed like the chef talking, and maybe it would go another angle of the food. So when I first did it, I wanted to make a channel, and I know the algorithm has changed over the years, but when I was doing it, I was getting a lot of engagement because I could have just put a tripod up there and had John cook whatever. John was like the face of the vegan zombie back then. And just cook whatever and then just edit a video. But I didn't do that. I had like two cameras. I had a camera, you know, on a tripod, and my other one was in my hand, and I would do all these like crazy angles that would, like, even if you didn't like what we were making, it would like engage you to not like want to click through. I'd go like right up to his face, and I'd come down, and I'd do another one over here, and I'd go, you know, really creative angles. And I'd always have, like, I wouldn't keep it there for too long. I wanted to create that engagement. And I guess that's how we really, you know, took off as a YouTube channel that was doing like the first of its kind, you know, and we did it in a way that you can't forget. How do you forget a vegan zombie, you know? So, I mean, that's how we did it. And that's how and it all came from the movie idea. So yeah, it's a long time coming.
That's really interesting because, you know, you started doing this like all, I guess, was this before social media really took off? Is that right?
Yeah, it was, because it was before Instagram. I remember Instagram came out a few years later. And, you know, just to say this, because so when I wrote this script, it was completely original. I got inspiration from some, like George Romero is my favorite director. He, for those that don't know, he did Night of the Living Dead, the pretty much godfather of zombies. But the movies that really inspired me to write this are not exactly horror movies. And that's why I feel like this is special. Because one of the movies that I used was E.T. That's my favorite movie of all time. And then we have elements of Stand By Me, The Goonies, and then we have a horror element in there. And I know, as I was explaining this before, but for me, I had to do a movie like, okay, so for me, if I watch a movie, it could be a good movie, it could be a bad movie. And if it's a bad movie, I'll be like, I'll forget about it unless it's so bad I never forget about it. If it's just like, oh, that's a good movie, it made me happy, it was good, I might be like, that was a good movie, and then I leave the theater, or turn off my streaming service. I don't think about it again. But if I watch a movie where, somewhere in the movie, the middle, the end, it does something and it tears at my emotion and it pulls at my heart, I will never forget that movie. When it's over with, I'll think about it when I wake up the next morning. I'll think about it next week. And that's what E.T. did for me. And that's what I tried to do in A44. I wanted to create that kind of goosebump feeling, that like climax that makes you be like, oh my God, that's what I wanted to do here in this movie. And that's what kind of like sets it apart from like some of the other regular horror movies, per se.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it sounds like you did that, because that guy that you were mentioning who was helping you out, when he watched the film and he said, look, there's something special about this. This has heart to it. You've got to submit this to these, festivals and things like that. So you're obviously having that impact on at least some people. And it sounds like not that many people have seen the film so far. Jane obviously had seen the film, and she was super excited about it, as you would expect her to be. I mean, she, we can assume that Jane's kind of biased, right? Because she's in the film. But
Right, but
go ahead. Yeah.
well, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I will say that and I agree with this. She said yesterday, she admitted to me that she said, Chris, I got to be honest with you, I didn't really have any high hopes or expectations for this movie. And then
Yeah.
I saw it and it blew her away. Now, she sent me a text message after she saw it, and she was like, she couldn't say enough good things. Okay. Now, when she was reading the script before, she had a lot of like criticisms of it, and I didn't think she was going to like it.
Yeah.
And then she said she has an actress friend that she wanted to send it to with my approval, that she basically was saying, I just want to show you guys that you can have such a low budget independent film and still create something as professional as this. And to me,
Yeah.
that was huge. So I got to say, I kind of agree with her. Like, this is a film that I don't know, we don't really have any money or budget for marketing. It's a film that nobody's really looking for. No, it's not on anybody's radar. But once they see it, it's like, wow, I can't believe it. Like, and I mean, it's still a low budget indie film. It's not like some A-list Hollywood film, but like I said, we put our heart into this. And, if you can take that element out of it and say, okay, these guys, they're not working with millions and millions of dollars. So, like, we're going to see some errors in there, but the story is what moves us along. And I think we have a solid story there. And like I said, we got that emotional part in it. So I think it's a movie that could possibly become like, some cult movie that people like. It's just the problem we have right now is trying to get it out there with really no budget. So like this, I appreciate you doing this podcast. I need to get on more podcasts. I've been on some, vegan ones, and I've been in a local newspaper, but I really need to get out there to the horror community. I
For
need,
sure.
the horror community to do some of these with me, because,
Yeah.
it does fall in that category.
Well, what I hope is that, if the vegan community really embraces it and people interview you, like, not just me, but many other people interview you, then it will build the buzz. And then the horror community might take notice and say, what's this about? Like, that's been my hope. And what I was going to say about Jane was, while she is obviously someone who wants to see this film succeed, it's really hard to fake that level of enthusiasm that she was showing in that interview yesterday. And it reminded me of this interview that I had done. So, and I want to talk to you about some of this stuff too, because I've been interviewing people who like pour, a vegan message into their art. And one of the guys I had on my channel recently was this deathcore metal singer from Australia, this band To the Grave. And I told this guy, Dane, and I was serious. When I found out about their band, I thought, I'm not going to like this music, but I will buy the album. I'm going to support them because of the message, but I'm not going to like it. Well, I told him, I listened to your album and I am loving the shit out of this album, and you can't fake that. Like, and it's true. Like, I mean, you can try to fake it, was what I'm saying, but your enthusiasm just won't come across. So
Right.
what I think is happening is that the few people that have seen your film are being pretty moved by it.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting too. People are saying this, and I'm like, I said, like, give me the full unbiased reaction. And people were saying, like, some of the people that were even in the movie admitted to me, they're like, I honestly didn't really have too high expectations for this either. You did an amazing job. I got like a tiny little criticism from it that like there's really nothing that I can really do too much about it. So it's not something major. And out of anything that they could say, it's like I didn't really get too much. And I've showed it to, probably 20, 25 people, family, friends, some of the people from the movie, Jane. So a few people have seen it. Nobody's really said anything or even I mean, like Jane said, like that would be too hard to like, fake all that, saying like she's really excited about this. I think I blew away her expectations. But then again, I knew what I was doing. I knew what I wanted to do. And I edited the whole thing, and I've been editing for over like 30, 35 years now. Since I was like a teenager, I've been editing at some capacity. So I've always had like a kind of a knack to do that. And, I think some people could say they could look at my latest YouTube videos, like the most recent, not the old ones, but the most recent ones, and say, dude, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Cause I'll say, I haven't really put too much into the YouTube videos, so they do look a little bit lower quality, but behind the scenes, making a movie, like that's where I focus my time. And I made sure to edit this as good as I could. Now, every single scene that I did, we went over with my producers, and my producers, Lena and Lee, both live in the UK. And one in England, one in Scotland. And we went over this meticulously. Every little scene, we would look for any kind of detail that could be better. And so that's why I think it looks so good now, is because any error we've already caught. We've gone over this like hundreds of times. I've seen like every part of this movie, so what we have right now is the best we can get, in my opinion. When you have several takes of something and then you end up picking one, that's the very challenging thing. Cause it's like, you got to have a good memory. Like, okay, was there another part of that clip that works better? And that's what I would do. I'm a very visual person. So I've tried every little part in there, and I feel like I've got the best of the best in this entire movie. So hopefully that translates to other people as well.
If the trailer is any indication, because the trailer looks really professional and well put together, and just knowing that that was done on such a shoestring budget is impressive. I'm going to say this. I hope this doesn't come across insulting, but you've seen the movie Ed Wood?
Long time ago, yes.
The Johnny Depp. Well, the reason, because he's very famous for having made this like movie that people think is horrible. It's a cult classic. But when you watch the movie Ed Wood, the Johnny Depp film about how Ed put together, his Plan 9 from outer space, it's like really impressive to me. Like, even though like just everything is done with no money and it's just like complete passion. When I heard you talking to Jane, that's what it sounded like to me. And so, I hope that didn't come across insulting. It just sounded so impressive to me how every, like step of the way where there was a problem, you guys worked it out, and how you were saying, like, I couldn't even look at the, sometimes the shots because we didn't have the right camera for that, or the ability to look it back. So we had to trust this thing and then go back, and it blew me away.
Well, I will say this, like when I watch movies, I like to critique them, and like if I think it's bad, I'll say it's bad and everything. But after making this movie, I've got a new found perspective on that. So if I'm going to critique a movie, it's going to be like a higher budget movie, because anybody that did a low budget indie movie without those big bucks and having like teams of people to work on everything, where, you know, essentially you're doubling up and you're taking on 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs as one person, which is what I did. I will never, talk badly on independent film again, even if it is like, objectively bad. I will say, hey, until you make your own independent film, don't really, criticize some of these, little ones. It's easy for somebody to get on there and say, oh, this looks so bad. And it's like, you know, make your own movie and then judge. If you made your own movie, then okay, yeah, judge. But it's like, yeah. So yeah, I understand what, Ed Wood, something like that. Just making a feature is something that a very, very small amount of people in the world ever finish. And this is advice that, the guy in the UK told me. He said, Chris, at least you will have a feature done, and not many people do that. So you're doing something exceptional. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. That does make me feel better. So either way, I felt like I was going to have something, and I feel like it came out even better than I expected. So yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of like criticism, I saw when you were doing your live, one of the things that impresses me about you is just how you handle criticism, like very positively. Like you had one person in there like, oh, this looks dumb or something. And you were like, yeah, if you don't like the movie, it's okay. That's where it was very you had a lot of humility in responding to that. And I'm sure, having done YouTube for as long as you've done it, you've had a lot of training on that. But I do want to say, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I do want to say about, like, the vegan community, like the activist community. A lot of times I feel like we don't encourage people to follow their passions as much as we should. Like for instance, I know, like, James Aspie, right? Jimmy Cashby now. He's trying to do his rapping and stuff. And some people like shitting on that. I'm like, why? Let the guy follow his passion. Like, why would we discourage people from following what they want to try?
Yeah, maybe he had that idea to be a rapper or singer like long before he even went vegan. Like for me, it's like, okay, well, why are you making a movie, dude? You were a YouTuber making food. And it's like, yeah, I like making food, but I've always been the guy that wanted to make a movie. This whole thing came about because of my idea to make a movie. So yeah, like I think, if somebody's doing something and they're not hurting anybody, then let them do it, but there's always going to be haters. I've learned that through the Vegan Zombie channel, and it used to like upset me when people would say things, but then I remember somebody was like really negative about something, and instead of being, negative back, I was like, I was positive. And then they were like, well, now I kind of feel bad. And eventually they were like, well, you got yourself a subscriber now, and like a lifetime subscriber, because I was positive back to somebody that might have been having a bad day. Now, don't get me wrong. In certain comments, like I'll go right back at some of them. Most of them don't really bother me. I'm just like, hey, if you don't like the movie, not everybody's going to like it. I'll be the first to say, not everybody's going to like the movie, but I put it out there for people that might like it. But yeah, there's certain comments, like if it's a little bit too personal, it can, like we're only human. Like we see that, and it's like, I want to respond to that so bad, and I don't want to do it in a nice way. So, you got to kind of pick and choose, which ones. Some of them kind of cross the line, and most of them though are just like an internet troll, which it doesn't really bother me.
Yeah, you've dealt with it now for decades, it sounds like. So, yeah, you're good at that. And I appreciate the way you handle it, because I think it, you carry yourself well. I think it reflects well on all of us in how you do that. All of us, meaning the vegan community, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I try to stay positive and be like, I don't know, any kind of inspiration for other people to go vegan. And obviously, if that didn't work, I probably wouldn't continue doing what I'm doing. But the fact is it does work. And I've had, over the thousands of people, either email me or message me or tell me in person, in some kind of way that, hey, somewhere down the line, what we were doing helped influence them to either, be more compassionate or make vegan food or become vegan and stay vegan, somewhere. And that to me is like, how can I stop doing this if that's the case? If that never happened, I'd be like, I don't know. If nobody watched the
Yeah.
videos, I'd be like, I don't know if I want to continue doing this. I mean, that's
Yeah.
something that I, that makes me wanna, it gives me like a desire to make more videos. And this is before YouTube even existed. Like, I would make a little video with my friends and family, and then I'd show my friends and family. And, for
Mm,
me, the reward was looking at all of them, all of the reaction to what I made. And now it's,
mm,
it's everybody out there on the YouTube platform. And now hopefully when the movie comes out, it'll be everybody talking about the movie. And then,
mhm.
that makes me want to do more.
Yeah.
And it's positive all the way because, it makes me feel good. It helps them. And ultimately, in some capacity, it's helping the vegan cause.
Let's talk a little bit about the movie's message because I know it's a little tricky to do that because you don't want to spoil the movie. But as you mentioned, you had created this idea like basically 16, 17, I don't a long time ago, 16 years ago. Um, and if you look at it today, like if the theme of the film is about like basically people are eating meat and dairy and it's kind of turning them into zombies, right? Making them go crazy. It's really not that far from a reality, in that, we've got bird flu going around. There was at one point we had mad cow disease. We got all these infectious diseases coming from what we do to animals. So how much of this film, I know it came from your creative mind, but how much was inspired by real life?
Well, to what you just said on my website, I don't know if I've ever changed it, but on the original Vegan Zombie website, that was exactly synonymous to, that's what the symbolism that I used was. I think I said in a world where zombies, and then I crossed out humans, ate meat or flesh, and I crossed out flesh and I said meat. So it basically was symbolic of people just mindlessly going and eating, your Burger King or whatever, not thinking what it really was, and basically turning you into a mindless zombie.
Mm,
And, so yeah, that had to do with it. But when I came up with this, like, I really, I just thought to myself, I'm like, okay, there's a lot of zombie movies out there. Some of them are completely ridiculous. How could I make something that would be as plausible as possible to something that could really happen? And I
mm,
came up with, I think, a pretty good idea. Since the vegans weren't eating the meat, then they were kind of they're not immune, but they were kind of one step ahead. Okay. Um,
mm,
and that's how I came up with the idea. And when I say, I do kind of note this out at the beginning of the film, just because I felt like I had to. I probably didn't have to, but I felt like it was important. But I said at the very beginning of the film, there's a little dedication, but it also says this story was written in 2009. And then I dedicated it to somebody, which you'll have to watch the film. So
mm,
the reason why I said that is because I remember after I wrote this, almost a year later, I remember the exact day. It was October 2nd, 2009, and I was very excited. I was going to see Zombieland that night with my girlfriend at the time, and her grandfather died that day, so we ended up not going.
mm,
And a buddy of mine messaged me that knew about my movie and said, "Oh boy, you're not going to like this." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "Zombieland starts out with a bunch of people eating burgers." And I'm like, "What?" Now, I had
mm,
already copyrighted my script. I had already uploaded it to the Screen Actors Guild, the Writers Guild. So it was out there, and I was like, okay, well, that's a bummer because I thought it was like so unique, whatever. But anyway, I put that there because I wanted people to know that this was written, even though I didn't have the ability to film it at that point. And I did some research since then, and apparently the writers of Zombieland wrote their script at the same exact time that I wrote my script. So
Mm,
I wanted to let people know that I didn't rip off movies like Zombieland, but also The Walking Dead wasn't a TV series at that time yet. The
mhm,
Last of Us wasn't a TV series at that time. All of these movies that the reason I'm saying this is because I wrote this completely out of my brain, out of my mind. And now if somebody were to watch the entire movie, they might think, oh, I copied this movie, or I copied this TV series, or I copied that. And I know it doesn't really matter too much, but to me, it's like, oh, that's just like, no, I didn't,
mhm.
like, so that's why I
Yeah.
put that there, that it was written in 2009. So,
No,
um,
I think it's important to note. Yeah,
yeah,
because I mean, the people, they're always critical of things and they're gonna look for ways, especially the anti-vegans, they're gonna look for ways to say, "Oh, you just ripped off this movie or that
mhm.
movie," right?
I
Yeah.
expect that. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll happen. But you've got an answer for it. And
Right.
you're getting that message out there. And
And
you
that's why it's
like you said,
important to do podcasts like this. So you can actually, cause people aren't going to know who I am. They're not going to like go to, well, who's the director? What did he say about this? They're just going to watch a
right.
movie and like trash it,
Yeah,
or love
yeah.
it, hopefully.
Mhm. Yeah, and like you said, not everybody's going to love the film because not everybody loves any film. Like you mentioned
Exactly.
E.T. being your favorite film. I'm sure there are tons of people who didn't like E.T.
Definitely are.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't
yeah,
understand that one, but there are. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, like you said though, E.T. is like one of those films that tugs on the heartstrings. Like, so I'm very curious because I didn't get a sense from the trailer how that's going to play out in this film. So I'm very curious to see what the hit moment is in this film. So yeah, you're
Well,
even in interviews, you're good at building suspense,
Stand
Chris.
by Me. We got
Yeah.
Stand by Me right there.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Um, yeah,
It's like kind of a
some of my best favorite films, like I've originally, if you saw the original Kickstarter stuff, I was very hopeful to try to get some of these 80s actors in it, like Dee Wallace and some of the people from Stand By Me or Goonies, just to play even a small role, like where they could come in for a day. None of that panned out, unfortunately, but
Mhm.
we tried.
Yeah. So I know that you had mentioned to Jane that you're open and maybe even excited and passionate about filming a second movie and possibly a sequel. And it would be awesome to see. I bring this up because like I would love to see what you could do with a budget, like a huge budget. That'd be
Yeah.
amazing. I wonder, did you not to derail us, did you see the new Nosferatu
I
remake?
didn't yet, but I like vampires are my favorite, and my all-time
Oh
favorite
yeah.
horror movie is Dracula. So I
Okay.
really do want to see it. I just haven't had the time to go out there and
Yeah.
I'm not.
Well, my advice, see it in the theaters because it's just so moody at the sound, the look. I was blown away by the film.
Yeah,
Now, I'll say, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say I would. It's very similar. I mean, it was basically stolen from Dracula, so it's very similar to Dracula, and I love that movie. So yeah, I'm
Mhm.
excited to go check it out.
Yeah, I had not watched the original though, I'll say, but yeah, I think you'll dig it. I'm not. I'll be curious actually. You should let me know at some point what you thought of that movie. But speaking about like the art, I have kind of brought several things up like To the Grave, like the rapping that James is trying, and and yeah, I just came across this video game just the other day called White Shadows, which like takes you through a factory farm. So, and I'm seeing Patrick Baboumian's trying to make a game where you liberate animals. And I really am very excited about the creativity that's starting to bubble up in our movement, where people are putting their heart into artistic ventures like that. Um, yeah, I don't really have a question around that. I just made the comment, but I'm just really excited. It's this is where I think that we have in some ways, I guess, not you, but in some ways our movement as a whole in the past has sort of dropped the ball. Like we have really smart, really creative, really dedicated people, and we're not really in these spaces, right? Like there isn't a vegan zombie movie yet until you made it. We've got to get in these spaces.
And I'm surprised they haven't done like any vegan, pro-vegan all the way through like non-documentaries, there's really not anything out there in that space. But yeah, there's so many directions we could go with a sequel with a proper budget, so it does, I will say that it does, there is room for a sequel, and I have I have a lot of it already in my head, what I've already decided, that just didn't all fit into one movie. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So what if you had like a big budget? Obviously, it will look better, it will sound better, like you could do all this like expensive equipment, but what are some of the things that you would really like to do that you would need funding for?
Well, I mean, a proper crew, and like to have like, so okay, so just so I did like 5 different jobs, and then my good friends did like a couple different jobs, and like so I didn't get paid anything for this. I didn't pay. So most of the budget went to paying cast and crew. Some of my friends did it for free. Some of my friends did it for very cheap. So yeah, if I had a proper cast and crew where we could hire the right people for the right job, things would run a lot more smooth. We wouldn't get burnt out, and like it just would all work better. I think, we didn't have even like a line producer. We had like, I was pretty much doing everything that, that I had to do. I couldn't afford to pay anybody else. And that is still true with post-production. So, yeah. And I would want to be able to hire the people that I trust, my friends, for a real budget. Cause some of my buddy, that did the sound, he did it for a super discount, and he did such a professional job. His name is Rob Acosella, and he's a professional sound designer that's just happened to have been following the vegan zombies for the last 10 or more years. So he really wanted to be part of this. Otherwise, I don't know where we'd be. But just listening to what you heard through, that's some pretty good sound design that he did. And I remember the movie was like a shell of what it was before we had the sound. Sound is so important for any movie. It's arguably the most important part of a movie. So listening to the movie before we had that sound design was just like, okay, whatever. And then I remember listening to it the first time he gave me all the sound. And I remember there was a certain part, I can kind of say we were at some train tracks in the movie, and we get out of a truck. And I remember listening with my headphones, and it was like, originally it was just nothing. It was just us, stepping out of the truck onto the gravel. But after he did the sound design, you could hear like kind of like a soft wind blowing through like the weeds, and you could hear like coyotes way in the background, some birds. It just was so eerie at that point, because he said that as the movie went on, he tried to put more sounds to make it sound even more and more like, like a little bit something's off, so to really get you going psychologically. And it's so good now with the sound.
Yeah. I mean, sound is, like you said, it's so important for a horror film to get that unsettling feeling. Like, even that game that I just mentioned, the White Shadows, like before you even start, there's this kind of like ominous, like kind of rumble, like that you can only hear like if you're wearing headphones, like, and it's like, whoa, this is kind of intense. And just
You
playing
can
your
hear that at the
trailer.
beginning of my trailer too.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Like when we just play the trailer, I was real focused on the sound, because I was like, am I playing it too loud, for the listeners? And I was like, for the first time I heard your trailer with headphones on, and it sounded damn good. So I left the sound up pretty high, because I was like, well, even if it's loud, I want people to feel this in the immersion.
It was all professionally balanced out and everything. So I was able to watch this. My buddy works at a local movie theater, so I've watched it twice on the big screen, and 4K. and I got to listen to it with surround sound. So I can say like it looks good. I did a few little tweaks and changes. I got to go back there and check it out again, but it's looking really good. I'm super excited. I think that, people, it's ready to be seen by people, like I can still do a couple little tweaks, but even if I didn't, it's ready, and I want people to see this. It's going to be fun.
Well, you mentioned filming in your old high school and these train tracks behind you, and I'm wondering, like, did you film all this in New York, and like, how much travel did you put in for this film?
I didn't really put in much travel at all. We did all Syracuse area and surrounding areas. The furthest we had to travel from where I lived was about 45 minutes at an old mom and pop gas station that was perfect. Other than that, it was all within, we filmed a lot of it at my house. We filmed at the places where I grew up that inspired me to write this. Some, like, I won't say, I'm not going to tell you what happens, but in the first scene where you see any kind of action, you're going to see like, oh, I see what he did there. That's actually a real experience I had as a little kid, and that scene right there. So yeah, I mean, I wanted to put the places that I grew up in, but we try to make it ambiguous that we don't tell you where we are. We made fake license plates. We use a town called Amherst, as you heard but we didn't want anybody to like know that it was Amherst, New York. There's like an Amherst in like several different states. So we just wanted basically people to know that we're in the upper eastern part of the United States, in a little small town. The little town that I grew up in, it's a pretty small town, and it's really famous for two things. And that is, the guy that wrote The Wizard of Oz, L. Frank Baum, was born here. So we have Oz Day parades, we have yellow brick sidewalks and that kind of stuff. And
Are
yeah.
you the place where they have that? Oh, no. There's one in North Carolina where there's like you can walk the
Oz
yellow brick
Museum or
road.
something? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have like yellow brick sidewalks here, and everything's named after Oz and all that stuff. They would do Oz parades when I was a little. I remember right when I went vegetarian, I was 14, and we had an Oz parade, and I came home because my dad was like kind of big in the community. I came home, and this is a very surreal experience, but when I came home, like all the munchkins, the main munchkins, so there's like 5 of them, we're all sitting at our kitchen table. So we had the lollipop kid, the coroner, the lullaby lid, and one of the other ones, and they all signed a postcard for me. I'm like, is this real life? They're all, they all passed away now, but they were friends with my family. And so the other thing is I went to school with one of the most decorated X Game bikers, BMX biker, Dave Mira. He's
Oh wow, yeah.
he passed away, so rest in peace, Dave. I knew Dave, and he graduated a year before I did, and yeah, so he's definitely was a famous guy here from Chittenango, New York.
He must be famous because I feel like I've heard his name before, and I know nothing about the sport, but they must have like used him in
like
video games, right?
Yeah, he had Sony PlayStation, Dave Mira, Sony.
Yeah.
Game. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So this was like, even beyond this just being a personal venture for you, it's like you've put stories from your life into it. So it's very deeply personal to you.
Yes, I guess that's where it comes from, the heart. I did everything to make this, a heartfelt movie. I put everything into it, not to like make it too, produced and, things I wouldn't compromise on, that I needed to be in there, stuff like that.
Yeah. So that's coming across, and yeah, I guess that's, so Jane asked you this question, so I'm sorry to make you repeat it, but I liked the question.
Yeah.
I really liked that she asked, what were those moments that you you felt like, this is the moment where like it's getting tough. I could just move on, and you still plowed on through. What were some of those moments for you?
I mean, after like I said, I had a team of people for 3 different teams that all fell apart, and I knew I couldn't just do this by myself. And I almost pulled the plug right 14 hours before the Kickstarter was done. And we already met our goal, and just things were going south with some of the crew and the team. And I almost just said, if I pulled the plug, everybody would have got their money back and we wouldn't have got funded. But then again, like, I'm like, I have this huge opportunity once in a lifetime to fulfill my dream. And I always thought to myself, like, I didn't originally choose to be a filmmaker because that was my first thing I wanted to do. But I originally chose something else because I just said to myself, I'm not, independently wealthy, and I don't know anybody in Hollywood. I don't have any connections. So I'm probably not going to make it in Hollywood. Now, I said this back in the 90s when I was thinking about going to college. So that was way before we had, what were available today, like all these social media platforms and YouTube and, creative suites like Adobe and, DaVinci and all of that. So I ended up having a chance of a lifetime. And, even while we were filming, it was very challenging. And then even after that, like, there was so much stuff that was messed up with some of the stuff I was working with that I was like, I don't know. I actually couldn't even work on it for, just because of so many things that went wrong. I took almost a year off of doing anything. I couldn't even look at it. And then I just had like this inspiration again that came to me, and I'm like, I need to finish this. And I started working on it every single day at that point. And that was like the end of 2023. I started working on it every single day into 2024 and all the way up until right now. And I just finally, and I'm talking about like working 8 to 14 hours a day, every day, no day off, try to get this done. Because if I would take too many days off, it's like something like I have to know where everything is. It's such a big project. And if I forget something, I kind of got to go through the timeline again and remember everything I'm working with. So I couldn't take any days off. And I really went at it almost every single day for almost a year straight. And when I finally finished it, it was like, oh my God, I can take a day off. I could sit and watch a movie or something. Like I became a hermit. I didn't hang out with people. I was a recluse. Like I've gone into like extreme poverty because I did all of this for free. So what does that mean? It means I'm not working on my, my job. I'm not doing YouTube videos. I'm neglecting my entire YouTube channel to get this movie done because that was the most important thing. But now I'm in a place where I have a movie that is complete, that I need to show the world, that's done. And I feel so much better now. And I've said this a few times to people. I said, everything that I went through, if I went back to that point right now, knowing everything I'd have to go through to get to where I am now, I honestly don't know if I would do it. That was that intense. It's the hardest I've ever worked. It's the most I've ever put into anything in my life. But the fact that I'm where I am right now makes it even that much better, knowing, because if everything was easy, I'd be like, oh, cool. I wouldn't have that sense of accomplishment of what I did. And hopefully things will pan out and the movie will, it will be successful and people will like the movie and people will want to watch the movie and good things will be said about it. And it'll do what it was designed to do. Entertain people and help the animals and become something of, the first of its kind. But if that happens, it was all worth it, if not, then maybe I just, wasted a few years of my time in vain, but, at least I got something that, so I want to say this, but, to all the people that watch the movie, the majority won't know this because they probably will never know who I am or see any of this, but this was dedicated to my, my best friend, my dog, my German Shepherd, who was with me through good times and bad times. And he was so loyal. Okay. So he's the star of the show and he passed away last year. And so I dedicated this to him. And I feel like this was our one last epic adventure together. And I do want to address that. And, the fact that this is dedicated, it's an ode to him. It was dedicated to him, means so much to me. Cause he's immortalized in this movie now. And I'm sure that there will be haters, cause there always are, So anybody that's going to go out there and preemptively say that as a vegan, I exploited my dog or anything like that, I'm just going to shut those down right now, because that's one thing that will get to me that
Yeah.
I don't have any patience for. So I just want to address this right now. So as a German Shepherd, he was very loyal to me, and that meant a lot of German Shepherds, that I guess it's the breed, other dogs too, but mainly German Shepherds, they get really bad separation anxiety. He'd freak out if I just left the house to get the mail.
Yeah.
So it just seemed right to bring him with me on these long days, these long shoots. And I want people to know that every take with him in it, I originally had the script was more demanding of the dog in the movie, but since he was an elderly dog by this time, I want people to know I rewrote the script around him, and basically he was just being himself in every little scene. So we did the magic of video making, of sound effects, to make things look more dramatic than they really were. All he really had to do is walk with me towards the camera in a couple scenes, and we did it on one take. He had a lot of fun with everybody on set, a lot of attention, a lot of treats, just hanging out with me and just basically having fun. And then after that, his ability to walk started to go about a year later. You can kind of see it in the movie, and I want people to know that I would take him out to walk him every day to prevent that from happening sooner than later. So anybody that has any problem, like, there was no problems here. He was a very loved dog. I didn't force anything. It was basically me and him just having a good time together, and that's all it was. So
Well, that is an interesting point. Because one of the most moving films that I've seen in the last 2, 3 years is this film called EO. I don't know if you saw that, but it's about a donkey. It is honestly one of the most creative animal rights theme kind of films. It's like this kind of indie film, kind of like shows you the donkey's perspective. But interestingly, like, they use real donkeys in the film. And so, like, before I went to see this film, I was like, wait, am I supporting some kind of exploitation? But this movie was made with love for the animals, to get the message out for the animals. But it's interesting. I wonder how people thought about that. But thank you for sharing that story. That's so beautiful.
yeah,
You misted up my eyes a little bit when you
yeah.
said, go ahead. Yeah, when you
I do
said
the
it's our
same thing.
last.
I can't really look at videos of him too much, because if I do for too long, it does the same thing to me. And not to say that I don't do that, because I just did the other night. When I say this, like, anybody that has had, a dog that was like they considered their soul dog, or another, a cat or whatever, that was like one of the worst things I had to go through was when he left. And I still can't believe it sometimes. It went by like in a blink of an eye, and I sure as hell utilized the love I had with him in this movie. And I think I'm probably giving away too much right now, but I think you can kind of connect the dots where that emotional, heartfelt moment is, going to come in at one point. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was such a beautiful phrase you used, that this was like our last great adventure. And so my parents have dogs. I don't have any dogs in my home, but my friend has this dog that I watch from time to time when they go out of town. And I just had this little pup with me, and it's the same thing. And I can attest to what you were saying. Like, that dog is not going to leave my side. And to have that dog be separated from me at any point during the time that I was watching him would be very stressful for him. So I even asked my friend, I was like, because my friend's pretty private, I asked them, hey, is it okay? I've got a couple interviews scheduled. Is it okay if they're on the camera? Because he's gonna be on my lap. I know, and yeah, they were fine with it. And but
I think it's pretty much
yeah,
common sense. Like, are you exploiting an animal, or are you not exploiting it? Am I abusing a horse, riding it around, like, pulling it, like making it work long, or I was pulling a carriage, or am I sitting there with my loyal, loving dog? I mean, it's common
right.
sense,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that you have your best friend there in the film and made them a part of the film. That's beautiful. And
He's without him, we would not have the powerful vegan message. I guarantee it. Um,
mm,
I wish the movie was already out so we could talk more about it because I want to say so many things, but I don't want to give spoilers away.
yeah, yeah. Well, I would love to, come back and talk to it after talk to you again after I've seen it. Hopefully by that point though, you'll be massive and I won't even get a chance because you'll be
Oh, I'll
doing
definitely come back. If
yeah,
that happens,
yeah.
I'll come back and I'll do another interview, guaranteed.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I hope this movie does do really well because then we could do another one and then that, I mean, yeah, it would be
Yeah.
all worth it. If that doesn't happen, I feel like I've just worked for the last 6 years for nothing, you know? So, like, I
Well,
feel like it will do. Yeah, like I said before, it's one of those movies nobody's looking for, but once they find it, I'm hoping that it spreads like wildfire through word of mouth, like, "Hey, you gotta see this, like, go watch the movie." That's the other
yeah.
thing that's, like, a lot of people are saying, and I knew this would happen. I came up with this movie, I came up with A44, and then after I did that, the production company, A24, started getting really big.
Yeah,
And
that's
now
right.
they're
That's
super
right.
big, and now people are like, "Oh, is this a ripoff of is this a spoof on A24?" And it's like, "No, they didn't even have any movies when I did this." Oh my god.
That's right. And they
They were
put
unknown. I didn't even know they existed.
Yeah, and
Uh,
they're a great film distributor because
they
so
are.
many of the great
Yes.
films that I've seen have been A24 films. I
Yes,
didn't even
they
make
really
that
are.
connection until you said that though. Now yeah, had all these things happen after you had this idea that are like undermining your
Yeah, I know. I
plan,
know. I just want to
which
know this is yeah, this all came from up here and it was if yeah, it was from the heart, and I just came up and I rewrote the script like over 100 times. You
yeah,
know, at first it was a 40-page script, and then when the first person I was supposed to co-direct with said, can you rewrite that as a full length movie? And then I turned it into a 120-page script, and
right.
then after that I rewrote it probably 70 more times just to make everything because like I mean, I'm good at telling stories, but like I said, I didn't know how to use like actual script writing, and then I had to like start working on the arc of every character to make it as good as it. And that's what Jane said. She's like, the story was so good. Like, how'd you get a script like that? And it was just like, I went over it multiple times with my producers. We kept saying, like, we got to do something about the scene. It doesn't work. We got to change. And we did that. It was very tedious, very time consuming, put a lot of hours into it. And this is what we got from it. So
Mhm.
it's one of those things. I'll tell you this. I feel like I'm really good at writing, but I hate writing. Like I feel like I
Yeah,
haven't come up with very many really good ideas in my life, but I feel like this was like my one genius idea that I came up with, the vegan zombie concept, which turned into a
yeah.
movie. Other than that, like I hate writing, but if I know I have to do it, like when I had that inspiration, I went home and it just all flowed and I wrote it in one day. I just wrote everything and I didn't
Mhm.
stop. I just kept going, going, going. And I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
love it. I've got a little story now. And that became everything.
Yeah.
So
Well, you've mentioned several times that, the idea that you would have could have wasted your time, like if this movie doesn't succeed or something. And I know you're like a very self-motivated person, so you don't need to hear this necessarily from me, but I will say from my perspective, you've already succeeded. You've created the film. You've learned a lot. Like you said, you had this great adventure with your friends. You have done this amazing stuff. You're having these conversations. It's obviously already impacted some people that have already seen the film, so it's going to impact more. Obviously, we want a ton of people to see it, but I'll just say, I mean, uh, I'm new to YouTube, so I've been doing it like 7 months, but this is true of everything that I've done in my life that I will sometimes work so hard on something, put all my passion into something, and then it just goes flop. Like back, I used to do radio. That was often the case. now I put together these clips. They always get shadow banned by the social media, like because it's got footage or something, and I didn't know we couldn't use this or that, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I hear you
doing
there.
YouTube, yeah, doing
Yeah.
YouTube that yeah, sometimes, yeah, I'm sure you've had this experience. I'm not sure if you have or not, but it's like sometimes maybe the videos that you put less effort in took off, and then some of the ones that you were super passionate about like just did nothing. And you're like, what the
Well,
hell?
yeah, when I first started, there was really no space. Like there was nobody doing it. So
Mm,
anytime somebody would Google a vegan recipe, like we would come up, vegan zombie would come up on the first page, and we were doing
yeah.
really well. And now it's so saturated that I haven't really even done any more cooking videos lately. Just we've got hundreds of them, and it's
Mhm.
just, like I'd rather do something else, to be honest. But like you said, like I'll work really hard on a video and nobody will see it. And unfortunately, every once in a while, and I really hate doing these videos, but I feel like sometimes I need to be a voice of reason, and there'll be some kind of drama video in the vegan community, and I'll go on there and I'll give my 2 cents, and I'll use my experience and my, longevity as a vegan. And I didn't really enjoy doing the video, and that video will get hundreds of thousands of views. So,
Mhm.
I don't really want to be that guy that's just going off and like making drama videos. It's just, I don't know. I feel like it's just not
Yeah.
me.
Well, and that's how the algorithm works, because those are some of the videos that I've seen you make. But I feel like you have made them in a very, kind of a positive way. So even if you didn't enjoy them, they were pretty valuable, I would say. Just to have sort of a wise take on things, or like kind of a measured, pragmatic take on things, which you seem to be. So yeah, but all that just to say, like, yeah, you've really succeeded, I think, with the film already. I mean, even just drumming up excitement in the way you have with the interviews and the lives that I've seen, that's also something. And I mean, look, like the vegan movement, and I've said this to some of my team members too, when I've tried to encourage them to interview this person or that person. I'm like, look, I don't remember all the different interviews, with the same types of activists. The interviews that I'm really going to remember and things like that or the videos I'm going to remember are the ones that were different, that were unique. Like Vegan Zombies made a horror film. Who's done that for our movement? No, nobody. I mean, other than, like documentaries and stuff, this is new. This is interesting. So yeah, I don't know. But
Yeah. And
go ahead. Yeah.
well, all I was saying was like it's sometimes it even like surprises me, it amazes me that like if I didn't come up with what I used to call stupid, I guess it wasn't stupid, but that idea that one day when I was driving those back roads is I hated my job. If I didn't just sit there and actually, try to turn something around and make something positive out of it and come up with that idea, I wouldn't be here doing this. I wouldn't have a platform. I wouldn't have been able to do the cookbook, which led me to doing the movie. And here I am with the movie. Like what I'm saying is, you could really do anything you put your mind to if you really stick with it. This was persistence over 16 years. And I never would have thought it would have done this. I just wanted to make this movie. And at the time I thought I was going to end up self-funding it, and just like work really long hours at my main job, but it didn't work out that way. It worked out an even better way. And so I'm just saying, if anybody has like a dream or something that they want to do, like, I mean, I've been negative about a lot of things, like, oh, this will never happen and this will never happen. But like, the truth is like, I waited a long time. And because of that idea, I got to, like, that was my dream, to make a feature movie, and I did it. I accomplished one of my biggest dreams in my lifetime. So
Mhm.
um, just don't give up. And if you have something, just stick with it. If you really are passionate about something, stick with it. And it might not come overnight or in a year or two, but if you stick with it, eventually you'll find a way.
Yeah, and I mean, and your dream was something that took, like 16 years. I mean, it's like this was a big this wasn't a small goal. So a lot of people we, come up with small goals. Your goal was to make a feature film. That's incredible. And I will just piggyback on what you said, and that probably a speciesist language, but anyway, but I've told this story, like the first video on my channel was me telling my story of how basically I decided very purposefully that I was going to take a year and reinvent myself. And this was about when I was 34 years old. I'm 40 now. And I decided, yeah, I'm going to change what I wanted to learn piano and play piano on the street. So I did it. I was scared. I was nervous to do it. Got up in front of people, started playing, made it work. You know, and going vegan, same thing. Like all that happened during this year of change. And it was a conscious effort to try new things and put myself in situations, even like with activism, that I was uncomfortable with. And I'm like, look, I may not like a disruption. I may not like a video, whatever thing, but I am going to try it and see how it goes. Because in every single time I did that, it paid off every single time. I mean, I'm not say every time I played piano wasn't the best or whatever, but every time I put myself out there, I felt good about it. And I'm sure you had that too. And then I'm like we mentioned, there were days that you were just like, oh my God, I don't have a team. Like there are days when it drags and days when you don't want to work. And like you say, just putting in 16-hour, whatever days that you were just doing, that must have been such a grind. I mean, you must have wanted to be like, get me out of here, out of this editing chamber I'm in.
To add to what you said, like you have to sometimes, if you want results or to accomplish certain things, you have to put yourself out there in, you know, what could be uncomfortable positions. I know for me that, well, this is a little story, but when I started the channel, like I was completely different than who I am right now. I was completely very shy and camera shy and not confident whatsoever. I was the guy behind the camera. It was my creative dream to make the vegan zombie. And I got my friend to be the face of the camera. So he was on the other side of the camera. That was John in the earlier videos. But then we got to a point where he started not wanting to do it anymore. And that made things bad because, you know, I wanted to put out a lot of videos and I was only able to meet with him once a month or even that. So then I said to myself, and I was anonymous too. I didn't want my name out there. You know, I remember MySpace. I didn't have my real name on MySpace. And that was me. And so I basically told myself there was like a fork in the road. Like either I have to get in front of the camera or I got to hire somebody else other than John, which, you know, like I don't really want to do that because I realized, you know, I'm not able to do a lot of things because I rely on other people and they might not be able to or want to do certain things that I have opportunities to do. And that came up a lot. And, you know, we've since talked about all that stuff. But anyway, either I jump in front of the camera and say, you know, like, get over your stage fright, get over being shy, get over, you know, having your name out there, or lose everything you've worked so hard on. And I was like, I can't let that happen. So, you know, I got out there in front of the camera and let me tell you, I was so critical of myself. I hated the way I looked on camera, hated the way I sounded on camera. It took me about 8 hours to film a tofu cooking video that should have only taken 45 minutes. And once I had it all edited, I hated it. I put it up there. I pressed, you know, the button to make it go live on YouTube. And then I had my mouse hovering over the delete button. I'm like, if I get one bad comment of somebody saying anything, I'm deleting this whole video. And then to my surprise, I started getting like positive comments and I was like, wow. And to this day, that's one of the most viewed videos that I have out there. And I'll tell you, by doing this, I got over my stage fright. I was not able at the time, you know, because we were asked to do demos in front of people, in front of like, you know, crowds of like 20 people to 150 people, you know, big veg fests and stuff like that, you know, touring Germany and speaking in front of large crowds. I would just shut down. I wasn't able to do that. You know, I had a really bad experience when I did that in Toronto where I just froze up. I didn't know what to say. I was that bad, but I made myself get over that. And I just told myself, I mean, if this can help anybody else, this is what helped me, the perspective. And I told myself, I said, Chris, you're here now. What is the chances that you're here on this earth right now? You're you're just as good as anybody else. There's nobody better or worse than you. We're all here. This is our time. In 100 years, nobody will probably even know what we sounded like, unless they watch videos, whatever, but nobody will even know us or have a conversation with it. The point is, it won't matter. So this is your time right now. And there's nobody better in this world to tell your story than you. So get up there and tell your story. And that's what I did. I went up there and I was like, because before I tried to memorize speeches and then I'd screw up and, what was I trying to remember? I just said, screw it. I went up there and I would just be like, I don't even know what I'm going to say. I'm just going to get up there and start talking. And that's what I started doing. And now I could confidently say I could get up there in front of like 1,000 people if I had to and do a speech. It got me over being stage fright. And I've done several demonstrations since then where I got up in front of people, which is something that a lot of people are afraid to do. And I was one of them. I took a public speaking class and I froze up. I couldn't do it. But now, because of what I'm doing on this platform, the Vegan Zombie, I'm able to do that. And I did it. So if that could help anybody else, then, maybe just think that in your head before you try to do something. Yeah.
That was so beautifully said. I love that. Like, this is our moment. Yeah. Nobody else is standing here right at this moment. I have the platform. It's my time to shine, regardless. Yeah. And I know that you like that, probably even that moment that you froze up, like you realize afterward, okay, whatever. It wasn't the end of the world. I'm still here. Just like with playing piano, I would be messing up on the street all the time. Nobody gave a shit. Nobody cared. Right. They're walking on. We are like more critical of ourselves. And bro, I 100% with you. Like, I used to do radio. People compliment my voice a lot. So I know like my voice is good for this, but this is my first time being on the camera and I'm so self-conscious. And I'll be, interviewing people like you, who I think is a very good looking guy. Had Jack Higgs on my program. I'm like, look at this beautiful man. I've got like David Rams, all these people who are very camera ready, very good looking people. So I'm like, hey, how's it going? How's it going, Chris?
I feel the same way. Like I'm very critical of being on camera. I really am. And like I was telling Jane this the other day, but like when it came down to play the part of a character in the movie, I had nobody to play the part. And the character was written, a lot of the character was written off of like my real life experiences. And I reached out to like several different actors and nobody got back to me. So it was literally, I had nobody to play the part. And it was the day before that character had to go. It was actually the day that we had Dr. Greger there and I had nobody. And so I jumped in and I played that part at the very last moment. And of course, I was very critical of my performance, myself. I didn't want to be the one to ruin the movie or anything like that. I think all the actors in this movie, along with my editing, the best parts of every person's performance, I think that we did pretty decent. I obviously, I don't think it's like, A-list Hollywood acting, but it's definitely not, it doesn't take you out of the moment. I think it's decent. So.
Yeah. I mean, you can just look at the trailer. It's a decent job, of course, like at the very least. And it sounds like the movie hits you in ways that you're not going to expect and not even be ready for. And yeah, and like it's just, I'm really glad that you worked through those moments because now you're such a great speaker. And I think that it's like I can almost hear like when people are perfect, like it's almost less interesting. Like I can hear like a little bit of vulnerability in your voice. I can hear a little bit of humility in the way that you speak. And it makes me want to hear you more. So I think that's another thing is that when people are worried about how they're going to come across because they mess up, sometimes like the mess up things or whatever is just like when, what makes you and what makes you compelling and interesting.
Yeah, and I agree. I think a lot of people have said that when I really start telling a story that they say that I get really passionate about it and like I'm real. Like it's real. It's like it's all of my, growing up and like my childhood, my experiences. And I mean, I feel like that should be, pretty much for everybody, but like I have a pretty profound nostalgia for, growing up and some of the things that influenced me. And because of that's one of the reasons why ET is one of my favorite movies, just because of, like, if I saw it today, I might not feel the same way if I just saw it for the first time, but the nostalgia behind that and some of the things. So like, I'm very passionate when I tell a story, and I might get excited, and I don't know, I might feel like I'm being, stupid or whatever, but certain people like that,
Yeah, yeah. And and it's very cliche. I'll just say the cliche thing, but we only have so much time on the planet, like we're not here that long, I'm 40 years old, so I'm middle-aged now, if I'm lucky, I'm middle-aged, so we don't have that much time. And it's just cool that you were like, look, I'm going to shoot for the stars or whatever. If this is, shooting for the stars for you, like to make this film, like you went for it. And like, why should we hold ourselves back in any way? It's almost like, if, people can achieve the greatest things if they put their minds to it. Why should we hold ourselves back from it?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, for me, it all came from just some idea and having, a love for, certain things that I film, and, veganism, and that it just turned into something.
Yeah.
I often think, like, I'm so glad I came up with that, because if I didn't, none of this would have been possible.
Right.
A-
Right.
And it
Yeah.
was in the right time too. Like, if I came up with this idea like in the 80s, like if I was older and I was, it just wouldn't have worked like that, because we didn't have social media. So, I mean, social
Mhm.
media is like balance. It's like, it's good to a certain point, it's bad to a certain point. But because of it, I was able to have a following. And like before that, before social media, I remember like I would just go to work, and, I was a vegan, and I'm like, what am I going to do as one person? I can't do anything. I can only do what I can do, and that's it. Maybe if somebody asked me in the lunchroom, about my food, maybe I can inspire one other person to go vegan, but that's all I can really do. And then,
Yeah.
I have this platform where now I can share this with the world, and it's just one person trying to make a difference to many. And so
Yeah.
I'm thankful for that.
And yeah, and what I hope is that people embrace that and encourage that, and encourage more of that in our movement. Yeah, so like even like even when someone steps out of their comfort zone and is trying something brand new, I think that's where we, as like, we often like talk about us like we're all a big family, like we're this small community of people trying to change the world. And we need to back each other and support each other. The other thing you had mentioned, like how you had to work on this film, you had sort of neglected your YouTube for a while and like put less effort into that. And I've made this point on my channel before, but I'll say it again. Like, it's just a good point to make, that sometimes when people are posting like on social media the least, posting to YouTube the least, maybe the time that they are working the hardest. You just don't know. Like people, and even if they're not, like people are living their life, who knows what people are up to in their life. So also good to remember just that, like you've mentioned before, Chris is someone who's a flesh and blood human being, So yeah, he's not a real zombie.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was out of, like, I had been posting like every single week, at least once or twice, for years and years. And then all of a sudden, no more, like a live stream here and there, and very little posts, but I couldn't, like, my the priority was the movie. And like I said, I have never worked on anything harder than I've worked on that movie. And I've had some hard jobs back in the 90s, but for this was the most I've ever done for anything.
Mhm. I kind of ask this question to everybody that I interview, and it's kind of awkward because it makes them sort of sound self-aggrandizing. But I just want to ask: are there moments that you're like what are some of the moments, whether it's the YouTube or the film, that you're the most proud of?
I mean, I'm definitely proud of doing this film, because it's something that people don't expect you to actually, like, I'll give you an example. Like, even my friends and family, when I showed this film to them, I mean, this could be taken offensively or a compliment, and I didn't care about. I mean, I I knew what they meant, and it made me feel good. But they said like, "Oh wow, oh, this is a real movie." I'm like, "Well, yeah. What did you think I've been doing for the last few years?" Like, they expect it to be some low quality, maybe YouTube quality thing, and then they
Hmm.
see that it's a real movie and they're like, "Oh wow," like, so that's a huge compliment. But yeah, that makes me feel proud that I was able to do this. Of course, my channel makes me feel proud too that I was able to make something and put something out there when there was a time when it just didn't exist out there. So
Hmm.
and because of it, I've met so many people, and I've had my opportunities. Like, before that, I barely ever traveled anywhere. I've traveled like pretty much all over the country. I've gone to I did that book tour through the whole country of Germany. I've met so many cool people in the vegan movement because of this, where I never would have before. There's people that own vegan companies that that sent some support in the form of like food and stuff for the movie, uh, where I never thought that would be possible before, where I could just be like, "Hey, Miyoko," if I needed to, call her,
Hmm.
text her. So that I've been able to meet some pretty cool people over the years, and know that what I'm doing is helping people. Like I said before, if I didn't think it was helping people, I probably wouldn't continue doing it. So
Hmm. Yeah, because it sounds like, obviously one of your life's goals is to, help animals. So like I know that you would put your heart and passion into something that was going to help animals. You've mentioned the film E.T. And George Romero. Are there other people that you look to for inspiration? And it could be, with regards to your film, or also just your life, or even just like what are some of the things that you're into, like outside of like the things that you need to draw inspiration from?
well, yeah, I love movies, and there's like YouTube channels that I will watch about movie making. Some of the ones that I've watched over the years, I watched since the beginning. I remember one called Film Riot that started right around the same time I started the Vegan Zombie, and I would watch that and I would get ideas in that, and then try to implement that in my Vegan Zombie
Hmm.
videos and stuff like that. So yeah, I I love film. I love watching. When I watch a film, I'm I'm not only watching for the story, but I'm looking at the cinematography, the color grade of it, like what they're doing, and like, oh, that must have been hard, or something like that. I love what other YouTube videos do I watch? I watch a lot of chess. I love chess. I play
Hmm.
chess every single day. So I obviously want to keep getting better. My dad
Nice.
actually taught me how to play chess when I was a little kid, but
Hmm.
within the last 4 or 5 years, I got right back into it, and so I watch a lot of chess too. Other than that, I just try to, you know, that's really all I've been doing lately, is trying to get this movie out and get back to some of my YouTube videos.
Yeah, you haven't had much time other than to do that, it sounds like, because
Not
you've been
really.
putting the hours in. Well, yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for putting your heart into this film. It's so exciting. Yeah, I'm just like really blown away by your passion, and I hope that other people feel that too. I'm sure that they do, and I hope people will support this film. We've been talking nearly 2 hours. Is there anything
Oh
that we
wow.
didn't cover that you think or anything that's been on your mind that you
I mean,
wanted to
I'm
talk about?
sure after we get off this podcast, I'll think of things. But right now, yeah, I mean, I think you kind of hit most of the thing. You asked me a question, then I'll go off on a tangent and tell you a long story. So I think I pretty much covered most of it.
Mm. Well,
We have A44movie.com if you want to go over there and see more about the movie. It's pretty well put together right now. It's not completely done, but we got most of the cast and the crew up there. We got the trailer. We got our IMDb up there. So, and the synopsis, all that stuff. So you can go check that out. It's got our social media. You can follow us for the latest updates, either on A44 movie on Facebook or Instagram, or the Vegan Zombie on any of the social media for all the latest.
Is there a way that people can support it too? Like, say if they want to, help crowdfund the next film, or should they wait for you to do like a specific crowdfunding?
Well, yeah, definitely follow us over there, because if we do go that route, if we don't get, some investor to actually fund us with a proper funding for a second movie, then we might do another Kickstarter and just, ask for, hopefully on the success of the movie, ask for like a higher amount. We originally intended to get more than we got. We wanted to get that Kickstarter and be successful with that, but then also show outside investors, hey, we already got enough to do this. We want other investors to have, more to obviously make it better. And in the film industry, it's like something like, just like $1.5 million is like considered low budget. And we were under, we were under 100,000. So that's like micro budget. It's super low. Like, after paying all the cast and the crew, like a regular wage, you don't really have too much to work with. So you got to be as frugal as possible. And we were like, I had friends that, just donated their time working on sets, and we would get, I remember we got a nice sofa chair that we found like on the side of a road. We stopped and we threw it in. It was a little bit broken. We used it, and then we ended up getting rid of it afterwards because it wasn't really functioning that well, but it looked cool. We got as many free things as we possibly could get. And then other things that we had to find, we went to a marketplace and we would try to buy things for really cheap. So we have pretty much stories for all that, but
I know you're quite busy, but it might be interesting. I don't know if you have the footage to do like a sort of behind the scenes, like making of, because it sounds like there's quite a story behind the movie that could be very interesting for people to see.
We do have a lot of behind the scenes that I will release and put together and maybe put it on a Blu-ray or, something like that. So yeah, it'll be exciting once, people see the movie, and then they'll be able to see, what we went through to do, because we got behind the scenes of like every single day that we filmed.
Yeah. Because I mean, behind the scenes of some massive blockbuster Hollywood film is not going to be that interesting, but a film that was made for under $100,000 with a bunch of people donating time, effort, like Chris here, like getting no money for it. I mean, just amazing. Yeah. So thank you, Chris. I hope everybody will check out all the links. I'm going to put all the links below to the websites and Vegan Zombie, so you can follow. And rewatch that trailer, because I'm excited. So look out for that film.
And when the film comes out, and if you want to, do another podcast where maybe we can talk about the film, just warn people of spoilers, we could do that too.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. I'd be super honored to have you back on there. And another thing I'll just say, like when the film comes out, like we should sort of mention like the ways that people can like support a film. Like some of the ways that I've seen people mention are like go and review it on, Rotten Tomatoes or whatever the thing is, IMDb. I don't know how you do it, but do all those things.
Right. And like I was saying before, like, so a guy that was a president of a animal sanctuary in another state asked me to come down to a local movie theater to do a fundraiser. So that would be good, because so by doing a fundraiser at a movie theater, like I would get paid for, showing the movie, and I would give a portion of those proceeds to a different sanctuary directly. And while we're there, we could also have like a tip jar where 100% of those proceeds also go to a sanctuary. And if we could do that, I don't know 100% if I could do that, depending on what kind of distribution I get. They're usually, I mean, if I can make some deal where I could, go there, just me, like other people can't show the movie. But if I go to show the movie at different sanctuaries or places around the country, then that would be a way where, that supports me for making the movie and directly supports a sanctuary. So, I'd be able to travel around and be able to do that. That might be something. So if anybody knows anybody that has access to a local movie theater or a local sanctuary that would be down to do something like that, that's something that we might be able to talk about if you're watching this live stream later on. Again, I can't answer those questions right now, but after we figure stuff out, that might be something we could do.
Well, I had mentioned that theater that got decimated by the storm and is closed, but they are hoping to reopen. And they're a theater that helped me screen the film Smell of Money, the documentary about the pig farms out in eastern North Carolina. And so they've been super supportive. So we've actually even discussed down where some of my family lives of doing like a fundraiser for them to kind of get back on their feet. And we were like, well, what film will be screened? So maybe if this happens after your film has come out in March, maybe we should consider that, because that would be
that's exactly that. Yes.
that'd be
Are
helping
you
out a lot
so
of
you're in
people.
North Carolina?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And that we were actually discussing a indie theater in Georgia that could maybe do a screening in support of this theater that they've had to move twice now. They showed me the inside of this place. The water was up to the ceiling. They had couches like chairs up hanging from rafter. It was just complete decimation for that.
That's crazy.
Very sad. But we'll definitely, I'll be in touch with you about that if that comes to fruition. And so thank you so much. And also just thank you, you're such a big channel. You've come on my little channel and I really appreciate that. That's also just really humbling, and it's such an honor to talk to you.
Yeah, I appreciate this. I appreciate this. It's been kind of difficult to get on any podcast for whatever reason, but I appreciate you doing this, and you ask some really fun questions, and I would be happy to come back.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Well, we'll call it there. All right. Take care, Chris.
All right. Thank you. Bye.